BACKVasseur made it very clear after the Bahrain Grand Prix that Lewis Hamilton is still a force to be reckoned with. After what many called a disastrous qualifying, where Hamilton only managed P9, Vasseur was full of praise for how Lewis turned things around during the race. He said that he did his best to push Hamilton a little bit and appreciated the direction Lewis took after qualifying. Vasseur described Hamilton's recovery as very strong, a solid race that saw him climb from P9 to P5. This wasn't just the team principal defending his new star driver. It felt more like Vasseur was daring everyone to stop underestimating Lewis Hamilton, because what we saw in Bahrain was more than just a recovery drive. It was a warning shot to the entire grid. When you think about it, what Hamilton did during the Bahrain Grand Prix was remarkable. A seven-time world champion starting from 9th after a mistake-filled Q3, with people already whispering that maybe Ferrari made a mistake by signing him. Yet, when the lights went out on Sunday, Hamilton showed why he is still one of the most dangerous drivers on the grid. No, he didn't win the race. No, he didn't even reach the podium. But that was never the point. The point was that Hamilton didn't just survive Bahrain, he learned. And that learning curve might be the scariest thing for the rest of the grid to face this year. The weekend had started badly. Actually, calling it bad might even be generous. Qualifying was nothing short of a disaster for Hamilton's standards. The car was snapping, sliding, and fighting him every step of the way. By the time Q3 ended, Hamilton was left frustrated, parked in P9, and sending a radio message that was full of disappointment. It was the kind of moment that makes people wonder if a legendary driver's best days are behind him. Hamilton, however, made no excuses. He didn't blame the car or the team. He simply admitted that it was his mistake, saying, "My bad." No dramatics, no throwing anyone under the bus, just pure accountability. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc was up in P2, and the comparisons were inevitable. People began whispering. Maybe Hamilton was washed up. Maybe Ferrari made the wrong choice. Maybe this dream partnership was a mistake. But then Sunday came and everything changed. Race day was a different story. Hamilton and his engineers worked overnight to make tweaks to the car. More importantly, Hamilton adjusted his own approach. When the race started, it was like someone had hit a reset button. The Hamilton that showed up on Sunday was not the one who struggled through qualifying. This was a Hamilton we all recognized. Tire management was flawless, strategy execution was clean, and every overtake was calculated, brutal, and full of intent. During the second stint of the race, Hamilton's pace improved so much that for a brief moment, he was lapping faster than some of the cars ahead of him. It was clear that he was beginning to understand the Ferrari SF25 in real time. While the hierarchy at Ferrari still favored Leclerc for now, Hamilton's drive in Bahrain wasn't about beating his teammate. It was about sending a message to the whole paddock that he is still very much in the game. Crossing the line in 5th place was not the real story. The real story was that Hamilton arrived, not at the front, not yet, but he planted his flag firmly back among the contenders. Bahrain wasn't a podium race, it was a pulse check, and what we saw was that Hamilton is still breathing fire. Some critics were vocal, pointing out that Hamilton was outqualified by Leclerc, suggesting that he was struggling to adapt, that the dream partnership was already falling apart. And it is fair to judge if you are only looking at qualifying. Yes, Leclerc was faster on Saturday, that is not up for debate. But racing is not about one qualifying session. It is about understanding the bigger picture. Hamilton's move to Ferrari is not just a team change, it's a full system reboot. At Mercedes, Hamilton was in a familiar ecosystem, one he had helped build over more than a decade. He knew the engineers, the systems, even the tiny nuances of the car's behavior. Moving to Ferrari meant starting from scratch. It's not just new faces, it's a new culture, a new language, a new way of thinking about racing. Even the steering wheel layout is different. Everything Hamilton knew had to be unlearned and rebuilt. Ferrari's way of doing things is famously different. Strategy calls, communication styles, tire management philosophies, they are all their own unique world. When a Ferrari engineer says Plan B, it might not mean what it meant at Mercedes. Adapting to that takes time, and Hamilton knew it. Bahrain showed that he's already starting to bridge that gap. You could see it in how he managed his tires across the stints. You could feel it in how he picked his battles on track. He didn't waste energy fighting cars he couldn't realistically beat. He didn't throw elbows unnecessarily. He simply focused on gathering data, learning, adapting. That calm, methodical approach is what sets champions apart from just fast drivers. Give Hamilton 5 more races, and he will turn this whole situation upside down. Now let's talk about the race itself in more detail, because while Verstappen was busy disappearing into the distance in his Red Bull, further back something much more interesting was happening. The Ferrari versus Mercedes battle was starting to reveal new layers. Hamilton didn't light up the timing sheets like Verstappen, but he did something far more important. He adapted his race pace to the situation perfectly. His tire management was classic Hamilton, patient, intelligent, and strategic. Every lap he got a little more comfortable. Every lap he looked a little more at home in the SF25. It wasn't fireworks, but it was foundation building, and crucially, Ferrari was starting to adapt to him too. There were no chaotic radio calls, no last-minute strategy disasters, no pit stop errors that ruined his race. Instead, there was calm, measured communication, strategic thinking. It wasn't perfect. This is still Ferrari, not a flawless Swiss watch factory. But it was a big step forward from the panic and mistakes that have defined Ferrari for years. Even the way Hamilton raced on track reflected a new understanding. No desperate lunges, no pointless risks. Just clean, fast, efficient racing. It felt like both Hamilton and Ferrari understood that Bahrain wasn't about glory. It was about setting a tone for the future. On paper, Leclerc still had the stronger result. But if you were watching closely, the energy, the confidence, the sense of direction, all of that was starting to come from Hamilton's side of the garage. Now we get to one of the most important parts, BACKVasseur's support. And this is where things really get interesting, because this isn't the usual PR spin you hear when a team principal says they believe in the driver and then leaves him hanging in the race with a bad strategy. No, Vasseur's support for Hamilton is real, it's deep, it's structural. Vasseur isn't just defending Hamilton in the media, he's backing him inside the team. He's giving Hamilton space to lead, to shape Ferrari's future. And he's clearing obstacles out of the way to make sure that Hamilton's voice is heard. You can see it in the small things, the calmness over the radio, the lack of last-minute panic, the fact that Hamilton's race strategies are clean and sensible, no strange tire choices, no confusing undercuts. Just consistent execution, and that kind of stability only happens when the team principal is truly backing the driver. Vasseur isn't waiting for Hamilton to adapt to Ferrari. He's adapting Ferrari to Hamilton. Even the technical discussions, the post-race debriefs, they are starting to reflect a structure that feels more like Mercedes in their dominant years than Ferrari's chaotic past. That is not an accident. That is Vasseur deliberately setting up a new culture at Ferrari, with Hamilton at the center. It's important to understand that Leclerc might still have the edge in raw one-lap speed right now, but Hamilton is being positioned as Ferrari's future leader, the one who can guide the team through the chaos of a long season and bring them back to championship contention. To win titles, you need more than just speed. You need stability. You need a team that doesn't panic under pressure. And you need a driver who can lead by example. That is what Hamilton brings, and that is why Vasseur is backing him so strongly. The impact of this is already being felt in the team's confidence. Listen to the radio calls, they're shorter, clearer, less desperate.